Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 73, France versus England in Paris. A must-win for England, and Eddie Jones has made numerous changes in the hunt for a bonus point. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome back. Obviously, after 2 weeks ago, England requiring a pretty big performance against France, so we're here to discuss quite a lot of changes and see what we think in the build-up to the game tomorrow. Dan, hi mate.
Hi mate, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Some quite interesting changes from Eddie this week.
Yeah, I think so. It's just, some of them I really like. I think firstly, if we get to that, I guess in theory, the biggest surprise initially for me was no change for back row. But then also, it's something sort of you mentioned before. Actually, he sort of tasked them with, do you know what, guys? You lost out last time. I challenge you to make that right this time. Mm. And the fact that we've got two back row replacements in Haskell and Simmons shows that, you know, should it not be working out, I'm sure whether it be after 20 minutes or 60 minutes, he'll have no hesitation bringing one of them on to change up as needed.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, let's not forget that Courtney Lawes might be a second row in inverted commas, but, you know, he does play in the back row. Maro Itoje, we know, you know, he can compete at the breakdown. He's done it before. These are guys who can do it, but as far as we're aware, they've been tasked with not focusing on that, focusing on other areas. And you know, it got identified and it got dealt with by the Scots. And obviously our concern was there wasn't a plan B, but perhaps they're going to go into this game slightly differently, and perhaps it's about giving these guys an opportunity to, as you say, go out there and obviously make up for what happened against Scotland, but also have a slightly different game plan in mind and prove that they can compete at the breakdown. That's what I want to see anyway.
Yeah, I saw or heard, I can't remember, an interesting piece during the week. And I'm not sure who I'm quoting here, so apologies for not giving you credit, whoever you were. But they were saying that in the Premiership, competing at the breakdown is almost non-existent. With regards to, you will often just have one at the breakdown and 14 others sort of out wide. Whereas at international level, that's not the case. The breakdown is fiercely fought. So yes, although Lawes or Itoje can play back row, is it that when they play back row, then they're not the expert breakdown sort of competitors as such, compared to perhaps more of an Underhill, even a Haskell, for example. So although they are back row, or maybe at international level, yes, they can play the back row there, but do you maybe need that breakdown sort of expertise that maybe a Lawes is missing? And is there perhaps a naivety that we have there?
A naivete, quite possibly. I think, you know, that's a big part of this game, and giving them that opportunity, because obviously we're sitting here as fans saying exactly what you've just said, but you know, those guys, Courtney Lawes isn't going to be sitting there going, yeah, I'm no good at the breakdown.
Yeah.
So I think it's important, as part of the kind of the growth process towards the World Cup, I think it's important to say, look, if we're thinking about this, if you're a serious contender for this shirt, then we need to see that you can do what needs to be done. And I think it's a massive game for all of these guys, but particularly the back row, to take the opportunity to kind of cement their position. And as you say, there's backup in the form of out and out back row players. We see what happens. I mean, you mentioned in there Sam Underhill. What's happened to him? He's not injured.
He's injured. Yeah, he got injured in training.
Oh, okay.
Training seems to. So I'm pretty sure this was. I don't think I'm confusing him. In training, his foot. I believe he's now out for the rest of the season.
Oh God.
Which is not, I guess, from an England perspective, is not the end of the world.
No, I mean, the strength and depth still exists. You know, Sam Underhill, Sam Simmons are two guys that they're obviously different players, and maybe the time will come where they are the two that you want on there at the same time. But for now, I think they're quite interchangeable. So it's been a bit of a weird one, hasn't it? One's been injured when the other one's come back, and then the other's got injured, so they seem to just kind of slot in to replace one another like for like.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, whilst we're on the back row, there's something I wanted to mention because obviously Haskell's back in the squad. Now, it was a couple of months ago when I got a phone call from, I'd like to say the guy's name anonymous, but I'm going to name him Ben Cooper, who told me he had 100% confirmed information from a source that could not be named that James Haskell would never be involved in an England squad again.
I remember getting the message in our WhatsApp group informing me of this.
You and me both questioned.
I think I called bullshit.
And Coops was there saying, guys, trust me. We didn't know his source, so there's a part of me thinking, Coops, remind me never to listen to any advice about stock markets or anything from you.
On the subject of trust, he's obviously joining you to cover the France game tomorrow while I'm away. So I trust you will be calling him on it.
I will be calling him on it, and every time he gives his opinion, I'll be like, mate, to be honest, your opinion counts as shit. So thanks for just being a gap filler.
Nice.
But
yeah, I mean, look, James Haskell has not had the best season. I think Wasps probably have not had the best season, and therefore, he's part of that.
Obviously, don't forget they're still top four.
Obviously, one of the big things with James Haskell being selected for England now is that, as far as I'm aware, he's still unconfirmed as to where he's going next, isn't he?
So he is unconfirmed, allegedly, and I say allegedly, actually, I would say almost definitely, because he was interviewed on an interview I listened to the other day. He has got offers on the table, and it 100% will be an English club. So I think we'll probably hear. I think we'll probably hear fairly.
So do you know who? Because I know Gloucester was there was talk about Gloucester.
I think the favourite is Northampton.
Is it? Okay.
So I know Bristol put their head in the pot. I believe Gloucester did as well. But when I say this is speculation, I believe the favourite might be Northampton. As much as anything, he lives in Northampton. And for the sake of ease, but actually whether that will come in, I'm by listening to James Haskell's interview, it's all about England. It's all about the next World Cup if he can make himself there. So
good.
Actually, I don't think the fact he lives in Northampton is going to play a part.
It just highlights what we've said about him all along, which is as much of a kind of joker and a clown as he is kind of off the field. He's such a hard worker, and this is a prime example. He's putting his chances, and he knows that he's not guaranteed. He's on the bench. He was dropped for a period of time. He knows there's no guarantees, and yet his career is aimed at making himself available, just giving himself that opportunity, which I like.
Yeah, exactly. He could go elsewhere and probably get a lot more money than he was going to get by staying. The fact he mentioned it, the fact he said, "I want to be at an English club," pretty much automatically already brings down his salary, but he doesn't care. It is about England. I think
as well, let's not forget that we give him a hard time because he has a couple of bad games, or he's had a bad start to the season. But it was only 18 months ago, not even 18 months ago, when he went out to Australia and was the player of the tournament and absolutely decimated them. So he's certainly got the ability. Let's just hope he finds it in the white shirt.
I think the thing with Haskell that we can find, whether he has a bad game or a great game, we know he's going to give it his all.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So move on. Mike Brown dropped.
Dropped to the bench. So
dropped to the bench. Sorry. I actually like it. I like the fact that Eddie came out and said, Mike Brown's been brilliant for us, but he wasn't quite there against Scotland. He wasn't on form. So we've changed up. I like the fact that Eddie's done that, because there was a part of me that was worried that Eddie, especially after what's happened the last few weeks with the press and everything, Eddie might be stubborn or things, but clearly he hasn't. He's put his hands up, said, Mike Brown wasn't quite there against Scotland, so we're giving someone else a chance.
I agree. I think that's a good call. My one concern is that I just don't see Mike Brown as an impact player. Obviously, I hope to be proven wrong, but therefore, I think having him on the bench, I almost feel like if you're gonna drop him, I'd have kept Jack Nowell on the bench.
Well, don't forget Jack Nowell's injured.
I wouldn't have kept Jack Nowell on the bench because he's injured. He's another one.
Yeah.
Jesus. I mean, to be honest, I think I probably would have called in someone like Good.
Oh, well, how about I don't know Good, but how about maybe another winger? So that was actually going to be my next question.
Solomona.
If Jack Nowell wasn't injured, do you think Jack Nowell would have been on the bench instead of Brown?
I mean, that's what I would have done.
Same.
I think just because apart from anything else, we know Jack Nowell is a good impact player. You know, every time he comes on, he makes an impact. So I think I mentioned in our last episode that when he came on for the last 20 minutes against Scotland, I think he ended up with most carries and most meters gained out of all England players, and he was only on the pitch for 20 minutes. So I think if he'd been fit, I feel like Eddie would have had to have dropped Mike from the 23 because I don't think you can. Mike Brown's just not an impact player. I mean, look, I probably get proven wrong, and I hope I do, but I just don't see him as an impact sub. But we shall see what happens. But yeah, good call to switch it up at the back. I think as much as anything else as well, coming off a loss, Eddie Jones is right to say, on the one hand, you want to give guys the opportunity to make up for it, but Mike Brown hasn't been in the best form for a little while. You know, he's been doing fine, but I think it's a good opportunity to sort of mix it up a bit and say, okay, look, no one's position is safe except Owen Farrell, and see how he gets on. But I mean, speaking of Owen Farrell, obviously Hartley, another one out injured. Do you think this is do you think maybe Eddie's would quite like to have Owen Farrell as his captain come World Cup?
I don't think he's looking at that. So, sorry, mate, I just got distracted there a bit. My phone started ringing and it came up Cruella de Vil. I have no idea who that is, but that's bye. Do I think Farrell will be World Cup? I don't think that's the thought process behind this one. I think one of the things Eddie said about naming Owen Farrell is Owen Farrell has been fiercely loyal to Dylan Hartley as a captain. He's been fiercely loyal to the England team. So the whole incident, which I didn't realise, maybe everyone else did know this, and I'm off the ball here. The whole incident in the tunnel last week was because Scotland were taking the piss out of George Ford. They were trying to wind up George Ford. So Farrell steps in, and Eddie's sort of said about this fierce loyalty. And I don't think Eddie would have gone on about Farrell's fierce loyalty to Hartley had in his head he's thinking, right, this is now the captain, sort of moving forward. I think this is just the step in for the match. I think it's the right call to have Farrell as captain for this match. And I suspect should Hartley not be the captain come the next World Cup for whatever reason, I suspect Farrell's probably the front runner.
Well, I mean, who else would you pick? I don't feel like there is another captain on the field. You know, it's interesting because when you look at it like that and you talk about, the senior players and the leaders, you know, Mako is vice captain, but I don't think you'd want him as your captain.
No.
And there really isn't anyone else that I feel
seems a bit early for Maro, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. I think when Maro first burst onto the scene and was just epic, you kind of felt like, this is where this is going. But you know, we backed him to be the captain for the World Cup. But I think it's too soon. I think he's probably the next one.
Do you know who I wanted to see? And this, I don't think this will happen. This was out the box. I wanted to see Launchbury as captain.
I know what you mean. I don't know. I feel like he's a bit too quiet. You know, he's sort of he gets on with it and he does a job, but he comes across as quite a hell of a job. Comes across as quite a kind of quiet player who just knows what he needs to do and he's totally focused on that, rather than being. I think Farrell is the right choice with it in the absence of Hartley.
I think so
because I think there are no other options. I think and also we talked in the past about the worry that, you know, would it add additional pressure that he just doesn't need? He's already got kicking duties and everything else. But actually, to see the way he's grown over the last 18 months, I don't think it would. I think he takes it all in his stride and you know, he just gets on and does what he needs to do. And you know, as the incident in the tunnel shows, he is fiercely loyal to this team. And you do want that in a captain. And you know, he's always captain when Hartley goes off with sort of 30 minutes to go, and you know, he's in the ref's ear and he's doing what captains do, and you know, it's good. So yeah, I think it's as it should be at the moment.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the right call. to have him captain, certainly for this match, because I think this is the stopgap while Hartley's. I suspect Hartley will be back for Ireland because from what I've read, from what I've heard, it is sort of tightness rather than anything major. His injury. So there's two more bits on the back I want to cover. First one, Elliot Daly. We know he's a great player. He hasn't played for 3 months.
Yeah.
Are we confident that he's got, bearing in mind, the replacement for the back three is Mike Brown, who's not a winger. Fair enough, he could come on and you can move Watson. But
I agree.
I guess you've got JJ who can play out wide if needs be, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm not so worried about that. Are you suggesting that because he hasn't played for 3 months, he will need replacing?
I think at some point he will need replacing, but also...
But don't forget that Watson goes to the wing then. Yeah,
exactly. So you can do that. You can do Watson to the wing at that point. But there's also a bit of me that may have a slight concern. There's Elliot Daly's a brilliant player, but if you haven't played for 3 months, there's a good chance you might just be slightly off a pace.
Well, I mean, I guess this is what he's... The thing we got to remember is that these guys... So the way training works now, they kind of got wires and things strapped to them at all times. Everything's being analysed statistically, and I know you can't analyse match fitness.
Wires strapped to them.
Yeah, wow. yeah. This is a true story, and everything's being analysed very statistically. And so, although you can't analyse match fitness in that way, you can do almost everything but. And I think at this level and the professionalism. And the experience that he has, having played the way that he's played for Wasps, but also with the Lions and his England career to date, I think he'll be all right. And I think as well, wing is one of those positions where you perhaps have slightly more kind of flexibility when it comes to that. You're working in a lot more space generally. Maybe slightly different when you if you're a key player like a scrum half, flyer half, in the forwards, scrummaging, whatever it might be. But I think out on the wing where you're kind of given a bit of a license.
So what I'm getting here is wingers are not key players and are lazy. Fair enough, I'll agree.
I mean, I don't know where you're picking that from, but yeah.
But I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? Like I think you can get away with a little bit more if you're out on the wing. But we'll see. I think the big thing is going to be the fitness levels, which I'm guessing they have decided, he's fit enough.
I'm sure he's fit enough.
Ideally, what we don't want is to have to replace him simply because he's too tired.
The thing about Elliot Daly, he does strike me as, firstly, he's one of those guys who just seems to just be comfortable in any sporting environment. But I just don't know that anything seems to faze him when it comes to, put the guy on a sports pitch and he seems to know exactly how to play that sport, whatever that sport may be. But he is just quality. I'm sort of backtracking a bit over the question I heard, but if he needs to play 80 minutes, I'm sure he can.
And there's I wonder if there's an element of it that's about his boot. We talked about it a lot for the Lions, the value that it adds to be able to, kick penalties from an extra 10, 15
launch
yards back.
A rocket, yeah.
So that may well be a big part of that decision, to have him there, and have that option.
Yes, yeah, quite possibly. And the other one, Theo, outside centre.
I get why he's done it. He's up against Bastareaud. Bastareaud's in pretty good form. I think the big question is going to be whether or not England's blitz defence kind of shuts Bastareaud out anyway, and therefore the physicality is not so important. And I think that's where the decision to make the change and bring JJ on will come from. Because if Bastareaud can't get going, then we don't necessarily need a massive, defender to cover him. Obviously, if Bastareaud can get going, then you want a bit of physicality in the middle. But we don't want it. What we don't want is for it to turn in. Well, Bastareaud can do what he wants, but we don't want Theo to see it as, I'm being picked because I'm big, and therefore every time I get the ball, I have to run at him. We want to be picking those gaps because even if Bastro doesn't make the tackle, he's so big he just gets in the way. Do you know what I mean? We don't want it to turn into a sort of game of chicken. I think he's
fat, if that's what you mean. Yeah,
he is fat, but he's prop cover.
Yeah, well, exactly. Bastro's all round. No, I like it. I like him out there. So I see exactly what you're saying. From my perspective, I think what I quite like is the fact that I think it's done, but Tio said to front up to Bastro and defence, but actually in attack, he does have a lot more subtlety than I think Bastro does. So I don't think Tio will be drawn into the, I'm going to try and charge you down. I think Tio will still try and hit those holes, hit those gaps, make those breaks. But in defence, he'll be there thinking, if I can smash Sonny Bill Williams, I can smash you. So bring it on.
Yeah, true. I mean, I guess it's a bit of a mug off for JJ, because 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago we were talking about how he's one of the best defenders in the game, and now you're saying, yeah, but you're too small.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie did say that actually the plan was always to bring in Tio for that. So I think that was probably already known. And like you say, although JJ is a great defender, let's put it this way, a good big un's better than a good little un when it comes to that. And
quoting Eddie Jones.
Did he say that?
Yes, he did in those words.
Oh, how weird. Apparently other people read papers as well. But Tio is a good big un. He's a good player.
No, definitely. And he did it for the Lions, like you say, and let's hope he does it again against France. Are there any other major changes?
No, I don't think so. The front five's exactly the front eight exactly the same. Well, other than Hartley, of course.
Hartley out, so therefore, Jamie George starting. That's quite. I know that it's forced by the fact that Hartley's out, but it'll be very interesting. I think so many people have been calling for this to be a permanent thing. And whilst I don't think it will be, because I like what he's doing with Hartley, and I think that, as we just discussed, I think Hartley needs to be that team's captain. From a form point of view, a lot of people calling for Jamie George to start. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on.
So I think the biggest story here is not Jamie George starting. I think it's Cowan Dickey on the bench, because Jamie George starting had to happen because of Dylan's injury. But Luke Cowan Dickey, I'm going to change this, has been ripping up roads. That's for new tearing up trees.
Okay.
In the Premiership, he's been awesome. And if he comes on after 50, 60 minutes, whatever, and has an absolute blinder like he's been doing for Exeter, that's where the story, I think, becomes interesting.
Well, yeah, because in theory, Jamie George is the one that gets dropped.
Quite possibly. But what if Jamie George has a brilliant 50, 60 minutes?
Well, then
taken off.
Eddie's got some big decisions to make, because
exactly.
you're then talking about getting rid of your captain.
Yeah.
And one of the few leaders in that team.
Yes.
And that's not to be disrespectful to any of the other guys out there, but I think Eddie Jones is right. Other than Owen Farrell, the others they're not quite there from a leadership point of view. So I think Hartley is important. So yeah, you're right. It'll be very interesting. I suspect, even if Karen Dickey has a great game, I suspect that Jamie George keeps the bench and Hartley comes back. But yeah, we'll see. It's all good problems to have. Let's just hope that they have stormers. So everyone has a stormer, and they put 50 points on France. That would be nice.
Yeah, it'd be great. So, where are we going with this? Last time round, in theory, I was closer to the score, but since we both went for an England win, I don't think I can claim a success there.
So it's 2-0 to me.
2-0 to me still.
Oh yeah,
almost. Oh yeah, I know. It's easy to forget, eh? Yeah. score predictions because you're going to be on a sunny golf course in Portugal, won't you? But
I will be. I'm hoping I'll be able to watch most of the game after our round. But and you know, you say sunny, it's absolutely pissing it down. It has been for about a week. So,
mate, I literally couldn't be happier with that news.
You're a wanker. And not just because I'm super positive. Because one of us has to be, but also because I think that England are going to come out firing after what happened against Scotland. I am going for an England win, and I think they will win by 17.
Okay,
including a try bonus.
Wow, because the try bonus is a big thing. If
Massive.
Ireland get a try bonus win, they win the Six Nations.
Do they?
Yeah.
Even if we get a try bonus win?
No, sorry. If Ireland get a try bonus win and we don't get a try bonus win, they win the Six Nations.
Yeah.
So, and actually that's a good point, something we didn't bring up, because Anthony Watson says that's not something we discussed in the England camp, and I like that. So, the try bonus thing, although they say it hasn't been discussed, I call bullshit to that, Mr. Watson, because I can't believe that you haven't discussed something that might have impact on you winning the Six Nations. Well, I'm sure it has been discussed.
Absolutely. And let's also look back at the team again and say, you know, Mike Brown out to bring in more pace. And I think his reasoning behind it, after saying that Mike Brown wasn't quite there, was to say he wanted to give these three guys who were a bit quicker, a bit sharper, a chance to do more counter-attacking. So that's all aimed at tries. Tio, whilst JJ might be more of a kind of I think, if you're looking to run the ball, I think JJ is more the choice that you would go for. But Tio also scores tries. So, maybe Tio's in there just to try and... maybe it's about... Tio goes in, tries to get bring a couple of guys in to create gaps out wide, to create the spaces for your Watsons, your Mays and your Dailies to do what they do.
That would be interesting. But we'll go for a try bonus. Okay, so you've got England by 17. That's a good shout, actually. Do you know what? I'm actually going to go England by 20.
Ooh.
I know. Normally, the safe bet would be for me to say something like England by 16, but which I was tempted to do. I'm going to go England by 20.
Okay, nice. I hope you're right. I hope it's 3-0 to you.
I hope so too.
Brilliant. Okay. Anything else of note before because obviously we're gonna be back again, or you will be back again tomorrow. Anything else you want to cover today? I think that probably covers it, doesn't it? I mean, I guess the last thing is France obviously saw what Scotland did to England. If they've got any brains, they're going to say, right, they've got the same back row. Let's go and do the same thing to them that Scotland did.
Well, they've outright said that's what they're going to do.
And so, but you wouldn't put it past France to say that in the media and then do the opposite and try and trip England up.
Well, I actually think Eddie, by picking the same back row, is luring them into a trap. He's going to try and get France to play that way.
Well, maybe, yeah. But it's good. I like it because it means that it really does give those back row guys, and this is why it makes sense to have them in there. You know, if Eddie's confident they can do it with the right game plan, he's basically saying to them, look, this is what they're going to do. How are we going to stop it? But key clearly because of the necessity for tries, the key is going to be quick ball. So it's going to be about securing the ball, but shipping it early. None of this standing over it, hovering for 30 seconds and waiting for someone, everyone to get in position, and for the unfortunately defence then to mark up. It needs to be go. And we need to start the way we did against Wales. Finish the way we did against Italy.
Okay. I'm trying to remember how we finished against Italy.
Well,
that makes sense.
I'm just assuming that we put lots of points on at the end.
Yeah.
if we didn't, and finished the way we did against them last year. Or...
Yeah, no, that does make sense. Right. Well, yeah, I think that's everything we covered. I need to shoot off, give whoever this Cruella de Vil person is a call. She sounds hot. I'm sure you need to go and pack some golfing equipment and some rain jackets. So let's call it a day there. But yeah, myself and Coops will be back tomorrow to cover our post-match analysis. And as always, Andy will be back with us next week for sort of his takes and views, assuming he doesn't catch pneumonia.
That is indeed the truth. It's still warm out there. It's still like 16, 17 degrees. So we shall see. If the sun shines, I shall take some pictures. But guys, thanks for listening. Obviously, big day tomorrow. Join us or join Dan for that one. Get in touch on Twitter at England Rugby Pod. I'll be keeping an eye on that while I'm away. So if you've got any questions, let me know and I'll pass them on to Dan. Catch us probably Tuesday, Wednesday next week for some sort of roundup and looking towards the big, hopefully what will be a big final weekend with all to play for. Hi, quick update, guys. Coops has actually bailed at the last minute, so we don't really have much choice. We're going to have to leave the episode until Tuesday once I'm back. So, unfortunately, we will be covering the England game against France on Tuesday. We'll try and get it out early Tuesday morning so that you'll have it by midday and you'll get all our reaction then. Apologies for that, but please stay tuned.